In HRSI, we try to pull in a lot of voices that might not be heard through other venues. And we really try to look for the best people that can really give some really good insights. We're looking for the most important pieces of data. And I think Robert's going to be able to pull a lot of that in for us. So with that, Robert, I'll let you go through. And I'm very interested in sort of hearing your insights in this area.
All righty. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Just before we get started, I need to offer this disclaimer. Some of my lawyers have asked me to mention this. Just that the views and opinions expressed here are mine and mine alone. They do not reflect anyone else affiliated that I've worked with or anything along those lines. So we can go ahead and continue now that that's out of the way. Today, I've got a very quick agenda. So there's a quick introduction to myself, just who is this guy? Is this somebody that just pulled off the street? Or does this Robert guy know what he's talking about? Then we're going to talk about the build versus buy discussion. We'll try to keep it light and but thorough. And then if you have Q&A and things along those lines, you can reach out to me via email. I'll give my email out at the end of the session. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's introduce this Robert guy. So I come to you with 38 years of experience in the applied analytics space. Of those, 13 years are spent in people analytics. I got into people analytics. I was called by a headhunter that said, hey, this company has this HR data. They don't know what to do with it. Can you figure it out? I said, sure. Came in, met with the company, spent about 2 hours talking with them about what they wanted to do and things along those lines. We came to an agreement, and I started working there and really was dedicated to the people analytics forefront. We started with bare bones, getting headcount right, getting metrics right, standardizing metrics, laying all the groundwork, and then just expanded our reach from pre-hire all the way to alumni management. And so I've been doing this for 13 years. And I had the pleasure of working with Mike West on and helping him with his book, People Analytics for Dummies. And that was a definite enjoyable experience. If you have not read the book, it's a fascinating read. It's a great introduction that I give to all my staff members for them to get a grasp of what people analytics is. I'm a husband, father of 3, and a granddude of 3. What is a granddude? Granddude is just a grandfather, but a little cooler. At least that's what my grandchildren say. Some other things that you'll see that I do, don't need to go into that. One of the joys in my life that I get is to tutor multiple students in algebra, finance, accounting, Excel, SAT, ACT preparation, and other things, sometimes just basic life skills. But that's one of the great things that I get to do when I'm out, when I'm not people analyticizing things. So that's a little bit about me. Next slide has just my kind of companies that I've worked with, clients that I've worked with. Some were short-term and some were extremely long-term relationships. So you could see the different companies there. Great wealth of experience, breadth of different industries, different functions, different management styles, different cultures, and things along those lines that have kind of brought things to fruition for me. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about build versus buy. And what I really want to caveat this is, are those our only options? Is it build versus buy only? Well, it's actually not. There are other options that you have, and we'll go into those. I know there's been a lot of discussions on LinkedIn. There's been, a big series that, makes it look like there's this wrestling match, a grudge match between the builds versus the buys. It builds it up to, is it, you can only build, you can only buy. Well, that's not reality. In reality, there's kind of there's a difference, and we'll go into that. But let's go ahead and start by talking about option one, which is build. Now, the build folks, and I've built most of the companies that I've worked with. I've built most of them. I've bought for a couple, and I've built for the majority of the companies that I've worked with in the people analytics space. The main thing that you get with build is that it's 100% your way. It's my way. I can finagle, I can adapt, I can change anything on the fly. I don't have to wait for, an SLA to be executed. I don't have to wait for tickets to be executed. I can get things done. So that change is easier to implement. So if you have a leader who comes to you and says, hey, we really need to change our attrition methodology from measuring annualized to a rolling 12 months, you can do that quick. You don't have to write a statement of work. You don't have to do all that other type of stuff to get a change done. And you don't have to wait for the company to figure out when they're going to get it into your cycle. The kicker with that, the downside, if it's a downside, some say it's a downside. I say it's not necessarily a downside, is that it requires dedicated resources. So you're going to need a DBA resource. You're going to need a BI developer. And some companies allow the people analytics team to hire a DBA, hire a BI developer. Other companies allow you to use shared resources and other things that are common throughout the organization. But either way, it requires dedicated resources. And that can be a problem if those dedicated resources are pulled for another project. So let's say your company decides to move from one HR management software to another. Those dedicated resources may be pulled and unavailable to help with your people analytics during that time while that's being done. I've had that happen a couple of times in which we've going through a major upgrade and these folks were unavailable for a month. And so I had to basically put things on hold. I had to tell clients that if they wanted something new or something new or a change, that there's just this freeze going on, and they'd have to do that. So you have to deal with that in the build space. All right. Option two is obviously buy. Now, the cool thing about buy is that assuming your procurement team isn't slow, you don't have a slow procurement cycle. If you have a kind of a robust procurement cycle and you can get things turned around relatively quickly, you can get implemented very quickly. At one of my stops, we were able to implement one of the systems that we bought in just a matter of weeks rather than months. Or I think the standard at that time was typically 3 months to get on board. We got up on board in 6.5 weeks. So you can get up and running and have things in people's hands quickly because it's already been vetted by others. It's been vetted by your security folks. It's been vetted by your governance folks. It's been vetted by all the different other stakeholders that take a look at what's going on in your organization. Some of the things you have to be concerned about is that in most cases, you have predefined views, and those are the only views you can get. You might have some flexibility with a few colors, chart styles, but there's one company out that doesn't do pie charts, and because they don't particularly care for pie charts, so they don't do pie charts. So if you have a leader who's affectionate for pie charts and you buy this system for them, and she wants those pie charts, they're not going to get them. Okay, you'll have to basically offload those and offload those into a build scenario. It can be expensive. I won't lie to you. depending on how many people, how many employees you have in your organization, you may have, you may have high seven figures that you're going to have to that you're going to have to do, that you're going to have to pay for. Okay. Customization can be limited. And what I mean by that is you may not have the capability. You may say, you know what, I really want this bar chart to be stacked. You may have a company that just says, hey, we don't offer stacked bar charts. We just can't display it that way. So you have to find a different way. Hey, what if I want what do I call it? Scatter plot. What if I want a scatter plot? Well, you may have that, you may not have that, or you may not have all the customization that you can do if you built it on your own. So that's one of the things that you limited. But I will say, with the companies that are out there, they do a fabulous job with the products that they have. Each of the companies that are out there, I won't go through the trouble of trying to remember them all, but those companies that are out there really do a good job and have a good product. Okay. So I don't want to give the impression that you shouldn't buy and you should only build. As a matter of fact, let's go on and let's talk about what some of other options are, because there's more than just build and buy. You could borrow. And what I mean by that is you've got corporate experience that you can borrow from other companies or from other entities in your organization, such as you may have advanced statistics that you may want to borrow. Usually that's the cheapest option because the company's already paid for that. But the downside to that is that you're at the mercy of the borrowee. If they've got the bandwidth, they'll help you. If they don't, they won't be able to. So you can always leverage that for maybe some niche type of work. Maybe you don't need at the moment when you're starting up your people analytics organization, maybe you don't need a full-time statistician or an IO psychologist on your team. Maybe that's something you can borrow or contract out, for a few hours a week or something along those lines. So that's just an option that you have as well. Let's go on to option 4. Option 4 is more of a broaden, and that's where you expand an existing department with those people analytics responsibilities. You don't necessarily create a people analytics department per se. You basically saddle that responsibility with someone else. I've seen it done in organizations in which the IT department, namely the HR IT department or HRIS department, will handle this type of requirement, but they're sitting within IT, they're not sitting within HR. Or for some organizations, they have a central analytics organization or a consolidated analytics organization. That center of excellence that handles all analytics. You can basically just append that analytics to that particular group. The cool thing about that is that you get standardized results across the organization. The way HR data is presented is the same way that finance data is presented. It's the same way that the reporting to the SEC is presented. So there's that same look and feel. There's that standardization across the organization. However, you have to establish realistic SLAs to ensure your needs will be met. What happens if you have an emergency request? How are those going to be handled? Otherwise, you run the risk of, well, sorry, we ain't got time to do that today. We ain't got time to do that this week. We ain't got time to do that this month. You have to have those standard, those SLAs in place to make sure that your work gets handled, whether it's urgent or whether it's just a routine type of request. All right, let's move on to option 5. Option 5 is the cool one. Everyone's talking about it, and that's the bot. And that's going to be the things that are repetitive, repeatable, reliable, can be 100% my way. You can customize it and develop it your own way. It does require dedicated resources, and much like the build, continuity is going to be depend upon those dedicated resources, unless you happen to have someone on your team specifically that builds those bots. And those bots can be as simple as a subscription, let's say in Tableau or Power BI, in which those screenshots, if you will, are automatically sent out to users, so they don't have to go into the dashboard and use them. Other type of things. I mean, my goal with my current organization is to get to a point where someone can go in and just start typing in, what is my attrition rate for the last 3 years? And the software behind it will know where to pull that information, know how to present it, and know the particular tastes and peccadillos of the user, and be able to put it up in the way that they want to see it. This particular person likes to see it with bar charts. This other person likes to see it with pie charts, and bring all that information to them that answers just that particular question. They don't have to go through a team. They don't have to go to a dashboard. They just go to a simple interface like a Chat GPT or a Microsoft Copilot or any other generative AI type tool. Type that in, it grabs the information, brings it to them in the format that they desire. All right, that's kind of what we want to do with the bot. Now, doesn't have to be either or. There's some discussion out there that there's only one way to do it. No, there isn't. Okay, make sure you understand this component, this key fact. It has to be what your organization needs, not what someone else tells you. Don't let someone say, well, Robert Lanning said this, and so we've got to do it this way. No, it's got to be what your organization needs. So the real solution that you need is to blend or bind them together. Okay, I as you saw in the thing, I'm a minister, so everything's got to be alliterative. So blend or bind. And what that means is you take the best capabilities from each of those options and implement it where it makes sense in your organization, in your environment, in your culture, in how things get done in your organization. And it's going to be different for every company. So let's take a look at a particular organization, how it might be set up. So here's a typical scenario. What you find is a people analytics department with a minimum of 3 employees. And those 3 employees involve the leader, whose responsibility is primarily the organization liaison work with their HR leadership, the COEs, and other HR departments, as well as the other COEs within the organization and the other leadership organizations within the company. That's 50% of the time. 40% is spent doing actual analytics, primarily the strategic ones. And what I mean by strategic, things that take long to do, those long type of requests. And then 10% are the tactical. Hey, I need a list of birthdays. Hey, I need a list of anniversaries. Hey, I need a list of employees in the Belarus office. Things along those lines, those type of tactical analytics. Then you have a senior analyst and a junior analyst. So senior analyst is, and the junior analyst kind of split most of the analytics duties. 75% strategic goes to the senior, 25% goes to the junior, and then vice versa with the tactical. Okay, but that's just for the analytics and the administration of the team. You're also going to need, particularly if you're going to be doing any building, and you will be doing building, okay? Regardless of whether you buy something or not, you're going to be doing building. You're going to need someone to handle the database. You're going to need someone to handle the BI. You're going to need someone to handle project management and intake management. You're going to need someone to handle governance. You're going to need someone to handle security. You're going to need someone to handle change management, as well as someone who consults with the results that you get from that analysis. That doesn't have to be one person for each of those functions. That can be, combined into one, two, three people, depending on the size of your organization. But you're going to need someone to cover those type of things in your organization, regardless of how you spread out your strategy. So if you buy, buy the things that are easy, that are straightforward, that are non-controversial, things that you don't have to worry about, hey, am I going to have to change this? So things such as headcount, transactions, the HR transactions that go on, maybe attrition, maybe some of your basic ATS reporting, basic LMS reporting, things along those lines. You can buy that type of stuff. The build is going to be the things that are going to be organization specific. Hey, this is the way we do it. I don't care what everybody else does. This is our golden rule for whatever the metric is. This is how we do it. Or this is a custom metric that we built. And so we're going to have to, we're not going to be able to buy that from a company. We'll have to build this ourselves. Those are the things that you're going to want to build. What you can't afford to buy. Some organizations, they can't afford to buy, some of the new tools. So that's where you're going to try to implement a build scenario as well. You're going to borrow things from your specialists in the organization. Primarily, it's typically your advanced statistics, because for most organizations, not every, but for most organizations, the advanced statistics are kind of one-off requirements. And most of the statistics you can get away with, with a statistics tool like an SPSS or SAS or Stata or anything like SAS Jump or something along those lines. You can handle most of the statistics in that type of tool or R. Those type of things can be handled. It's really the advanced statistic projects that you're going to need to borrow for. Okay. You're going to want to broaden wherever possible. I see more and more of this coming, particularly with the impetus on generative AI. I see more consolidation in analytics in organizations coming, in which you'll be either consolidated into an IT-centered organization or a central analytics organization, or even maybe somewhere like within finance. There'll be a finance reporting that handles all that, in which the analysts won't necessarily be 100% HR. They may be 80% HR and 20% finance or something along those lines. That's where this analytics function is headed, is to become part of a centralized analytics organization. So to kind of get ahead of that would be in everyone's best interest. And then finally, use the bots for the replicable, the routine KPI reporting, those subscriptions, those alerts. You leverage those as much as possible. All right. And with that, I conclude. If you have any questions, I would love to talk further with you on this particular thing. If you need a shoulder to cry on, saying, here's what's going on in my organization, what do I do? How do I handle this? Or things along those lines, you can feel free to leverage my time. I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you for your time and good luck.